And welcome back, everybody, once again to the PCS Summer Split. In our best of 5 series, CFO, the higher seed, and definitely the expected team, find themselves up 1-0, but not without a fight from FAK Esports. We'll have to see if the latter can find their way back, fire back into this one. Clement, how are you feeling about that so far?
As we have seen, the team that does lose ends up having the side selection, and FAK Esports are now going to shift over towards the blue side. So a couple of big champions I want to see them try to pick up is those champions that force the tempo. CFO are really good at hanging back, but if you can just throw a punch and kind of smash their guard in, then you have a shot. So I'm really looking at that Ari and that Sivir to make a difference.
To see if they both make it through this time around. Before we get into the pick and ban, I do want to take another moment to shout out our sponsor, CTBC Bank, of course, not only sponsoring our league, but also the CTBC Flying Oyster. We'll see if they can continue to fly high. And speaking of flying high, I want to thank our other sponsor. Throughout the playoffs, we have China Airlines with us for making the PCS possible. Thank you so much. Now, Clement, coming into this second game, you talked about a couple of those picks being instrumental. I also want to see the jungle making some changes, because that Xin Zhao just could not do anything against the Poppy. I feel like the Poppy's ban-worthy too.
Absolutely. If you're trying to go triple dive composition, it's so easy for Gemini to just cancel out that. You know, he has 2 abilities that can shut you down: the Steadfast Presence, the Hero's Verdict as well. It's just too hard to force your way through a Poppy. And I don't think we've seen a single Xin Zhao win in these last 2 days here. So I'm not sure why the Xin Zhao was selected. I feel like it's not good enough to just think that you want a good early game and pick the Xin Zhao. That to me, I just think that the Trundle could do a much better job if the early game is all you're going for. In the meantime, CFO very much aware of what could be the threats here. They're banning the Ari, and with the Callista off the table, I think there's a pretty high chance that the Sivir is going to go along with it.
Yeah, you know, we haven't seen too many wins coming through. You talked about a little earlier for, you know, the Xin Zhao. I don't think we've seen Zeri win in the playoffs so far. That's a big fat 0-5, if I'm recalling correctly, for that champion.
Yeah, it's definitely a little bit odd for Zeri. I don't think the nerfs actually hit her all that much. She's still very much played, very high priority. But the fact is, I think teams have gotten better at just playing around her. The fact that you can attempt to outrange her, you can go in with more, I think, obviously Sivir, just moves the lane and has more pressure in the situations here. So this is what I wanted. I wanted Frank to try and play an early game composition, and I don't think Gwen's the correct answer here. I would actually much rather see the Camille being selected. Gwen is not a champion that starts popping off in the early game. It takes a while to rev up. So taking away the Wukong, I think, is a much better chance here, and save the red side pick for later.
Yeah, deny FAK Esports' chance to get a very powerful, engaging jungler. I think we need to see some different answers out of Holo. That's going to be the Aphelios locked in for Shun yet again here. We'll get to play it once more. See what Frank pair with the Sivir in their composition now.
Yeah, so a couple of big champions that are great against the Sivir composition. You have to think about the Alistar. I would say that is a good champion for both Koalo and carries. And, you know, if you see the Sivir, if you see the Camille, you're pretty much guaranteed to be going up against a rundown composition. So the support position becomes incredibly important. The supports that we've been seeing coming out, Rakan and the Renata and the Alistar, all of these are great options at just stopping people dead in their tracks when they're trying to just chase you down.
Yeah. Speaking of chase, though, we will add the Nautilus in for that hook potential. Koala just had a stellar performance on it last game. See if it's going to do the same for carries. Over on CFO's side, Mission would very much prefer to get a champion like this Victor yet again.
I would say this has been Mission's weakest split in terms of his champion pool. Victor is not a champion that a lot of people are still playing on this patch. He has very little input in the games earlier on. He doesn't get wave clear until he gets his first Hex Tech Core evolve here. So I think this is leaving the windows open for Frank Esports. They have a lot better engage here. They have the speed up coming in from Sivir that can empower the entire team, and they also have the Nautilus, which I prefer a lot more compared to the Tom Kench here. So I don't really like this Victor. I think this Victor is a little bit suspect here. I'd much rather than just go for a support pick a little bit earlier on and just lock in that Alistar, which has been able to just shut down Sivir comps.
A lot has been made of Mission in this split. It does feel like, it doesn't really matter what the patch has been, he's sometimes struggled, sometimes suffered a little bit because he likes these control mages, he likes to stick to the back, but even then, you just ban things like the Azir out, like Frank did in this game, and he starts to fall back onto things like Orianna or Syndra. Syndra got some, you know, inadvertent buffs as well, and now we're like, okay, he's still playing Victor. What's going on, Mission?
Yeah, there's so many good answers, I think, to Victor. It's just, he's very gankable, and, you know, you can just roam Camille. You don't pay attention to the lane. It starts things to snowball quite easily here. So if we look at Frank Esports side, they definitely have a couple big champions up. A Vi here would be very devastating, I think, for their composition. They could just charge in on the Aphelios. And because Vi is unstoppable, you get to go through the gravity field. You get to disregard the Cyclone. I think that would be a huge champion for them. And once again, I think the Gwen's too slow. I would much rather prefer the Renekton here, especially when you already have the Victor. I think
there it is,
a much safer bet.
Yeah, that makes a lot more sense. So it looks like their late game is going to be in the hands of the two carries, but they can start things up early on with that Renekton, with that Wukong.
Yeah,
it'll be an absolute zoo up top lane. And this is something I wanted to see.
Ooh.
Go back. No, forget the Akali. Forget the Rengar. Go back to the Nocturne. Go back to the Nocturne.
Do it,
Holo.
Lock it in.
Come on.
Let's go.
Come on.
Again, this is another champion that
Yes!
cannot be stopped during the charge. And we get it. You predicted this. Oh, wow. This is such a smart pick.
I feel so vindicated.
You can shove the wave in a lot harder after the Umbral Blade buffs. And okay, I don't think this is. Oh, it's actually going to be a Nocturne jungle.
Yeah.
All right.
No. Okay.
So still Silas mid.
I neglected to say that's what I was expecting actually out of Holo, because the dive is there. Obviously into the poppy can also work, but I like this for turning off the lights, not letting CFO pair up well. What they do, their coordination is there. If they can't see each other, well, they can't see the enemy team at least, that's going to be a little harder to do. And I like the Silas in the mid for Pretender because it lets him stick to people, and we've already seen what he can do when he can do that. So the Braum is there to try and dissuade a little bit of that on the CFO side, but this Frank comp looks pretty darn good.
Oh, it's massive. I really love this composition from Frank Esports. This time around, they're all inning on the dive. I think their previous composition was a little bit split in where they wanted to go. They had that Zeri Tom Kench aspect that I don't think fit with the rest of the team. But this time, it's not only triple dive, it's also engaged support and on the hunt coming in from the AD carry. So this is a much more focused composition coming in from Frank's Esports side. And I would say it's going to be harder for CFO to actually get to that late game damage. You have that power trough where Renekton's going to start falling off, and because of the champions that are going to be rushing out Aphelios most likely has to go for an early BT, which delays a bit of his damage coming in later on as well. So this time around, CFO have to make it much further into the late game for their 5v5 to work out.
Yeah, and at that point, you're going to also be reliant on rest, just being able to stuff what YSCam can do. That early game, jungler is going to be very important, but there will be a bigger impact for Gemini. You have to think early on. We'll have a lot easier of a time pre-6. Once level 6 happens, though, that's when the switch is flipped. Turn the lights out and create some chaos. I am looking to Holo to be the hero in this game for Frank.
Yeah, there's so many good flanks that he could pull off here, and the thing about Frank's composition is that they could start the engage from very far away because you turn the lights off, you deny the TPs from coming into the fights. You have on the hunt to just do massive distance lane ganks. Just imagine this scenario You're going into the bot lane. There's 2 people pushing bot. You turn the lights off, and then you charge on the hunt and run into the bottom side. CFO are not going to even see anyone before the paranoia, and then they're going to find themselves dead.
Yep, that could make all the difference. Really excited to see what Holo can do on this Nocturne. We'll need him to be active even more than he was the last time around. Frank, maybe down a game. Ooh, speaking of active, look at this. The level 1 forcing the flash on a mission for free. Oh, that was beautiful.
Mission, why were you going forward? This has been kind of a constant thing that we've seen when teams go up against Mission. They always try to nab his early flashes. And to be honest, Mission has been someone who often wanders a little bit too far than he really needs to be. I don't really understand why he needed to be in that position he was in.
Mission is stubborn, right? I mean, this is one of the flip sides of being a veteran player. Sometimes you get a little stuck in your ways, you know? Like old man Victor just wants to do his thing, wants to get his glorious evolution. These kids need to get off his lawn. But he burns his flash, stepping too far forward. Doesn't lose his life, though. And we'll check in at the start of this one as Rest and Wisecam. Should be a very exciting 1v1.
Yeah, and this is definitely going to be slightly favored towards the Renekton early on. He's been a old school counter to Camille. Meanwhile, we do have, this time around, flashes for both sides into the top laners. I think the junglers are going to be a little bit slower in this one. There's not a whole lot of kill threat onto the Renekton. You don't want to force your chances too much there. So I do expect both of these junglers to just head for their level 6, go for their big ultimates, rather than look for too many ganks.
Yeah. I will expect potentially some solo kill action as well, though. If Wisecam fancies a chance, he may go in, but he is playing for a little bit more sustain. He has the Grasp of the Undying, worth keeping in mind on that one. Shun finds a little bit of damage. Some chakrams onto carries. This 2v2 down bottom. A little bit of love taps, but Holo with the level 3 has himself the red buff. And Nocturne has Unspeakable Horror. If he finds Mission, no flash here. There's the follow-through.
For it.
Tender gets that stun off. Oh, just finds it playing and respecting the gank potential. Mission denies the kill.
Really nicely done by Mission. The positioning there was quite well held. He likely had some premonition that the Nocturne was going to be coming in from the right side there, so he's able to keep away. And meantime, in the top lane, we got a lot of trading going back and forth with Wisecam getting some help.
Yeah, there we go. Just a little bit of a carpet being thrown down. The Dustbringer can't quite get as actively involved, and a couple of gank attempts don't result in anything. I think that's a win for CFO here, as denying a little bit of farm potentially is Gemini. Making his move into the jungle, he will actually spot Holo on the Gromp.
Yeah, and you have to say that Gemini is getting a sizable lead here. It's already 2 camps up on top of Holo after those 2 ganks. Weren't able to really establish much of a lead.
Nice hook onto Koala. He throws down the Unbreakable, immediately denies most of that damage, but Nautilus continues to very much pay dividends to the team that picks him up. Carries finding a great one through the minion wave.
Just seems like Nautilus can do no wrong in the PCS playoffs. It's always been this way.
Specifically the PCS playoffs. I feel like other regions try to use it. It doesn't quite work as well for them all the time. But something about these players.
Coming into this one, Rest just getting the bone plague down. And on 12.14, that's a very long cooldown, up to 55 seconds right now. You have the wave pushing in with some rage on Rest. So I think Wisecam, he's just going to straight back into this one. He doesn't want to play this too risky, and they know that the Nocturne is not on his side of the map either. So well done here by Wisecam. I also want to commend the way that Gemini has been just playing the top side. He's been holding on to Rest's hand very closely. He forgoes his red buff, makes sure that the scuttle is taken, makes sure that there's double wards here onto the top side, and then he finally turns around to clean up his red and his Crux.
And they're keeping the vision clear as well. Like, Nocturne can come quite a ways, but he's got to be floating over one of those wards sooner or later, and one will drop down in mid-river. But even so, Holo's going to have a little more time before he will be able to make those big paranoia plays. He's still only level 4. Of course, so is Gemini. But as you mentioned, behind on camps, finally catches back up. We'll see what Carries does on this roam here, as he does get immediately spotted.
Yeah, we do have Mission now with the TP back up again, so I do expect bot lane to be the most valuable game position as Rest.
Oh, nice
Getting
hook shot.
outtraded.
Gets that extra bit of damage. Rest, though, does not have Dominus. YSKM, he flashes and forces the flash out to secure the solo first blood.
Beautiful stuff coming in from YSKM. You can't dodge the auto attacks once it has gone through. YSKM not even blinking after that kill. A lot of killer instincts coming in. It's beautiful stuff from him. Knowing
Yeah, that's
that
why they call it precision protocol.
yeah, it does chase you quite a distance right there. Once the animation has already gone through, it doesn't matter if you can flash through it or not. So we'll watch this chase down once again. Russ actually just gets caught in a really odd position with not much rage.
I don't think he had a slice or dice left either.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's a Cold Meek, that's it. But the flash forward, man, and even miscalculates because the windup was already happening. The empowered auto. Oh boy, and Eminem now gonna get caught, spell shield. However, he does get stunned for just a second on the back half. It burns both sums, but so does Shun. And they don't get anything off of it. Mission taking a lot of damage. And it's gotta be very annoying to play against a Silas because everything you can do, he can do too.
This is very close to kill range for the Nocturne as well, so I don't think Mission can actually stay around here. He's banking on the fact that he still has the flash, but he definitely needs a lot of help from Gemini. Yeah, there you go.
I think this is Gemini's doing a good job at shadowing up Rest earlier, although he does turn on Pretender here. He was doing the same thing in mid. I do think that is hampering his potential to set up plays earlier, though, right? Like Holo has been able to be more proactive on the map because Gemini has been spending a lot of this early game making sure that he shadows him effectively.
And to be honest, I think that's just the way he wants to play this one. YSKM, though, coming in.
Mission flashes into the Hextech ultimatum. However, he's going to be able to walk it out. It's a lot of damage on tower shots. Really good job, but the gravity field slows it down. But Carries is not going to let this one walk away. Or maybe he will, but not easily enough.
This is getting kind of ridiculous here. Carries actually has to flag the shout on the back. Yeah, Mission's too experienced for postseason to kind of make those mistakes by staying underneath his own tower, especially against a Nocturne.
He's forced to flash too. What's going on with supports right now?
That was a bit of a yakety sax clown car situation for both of these supports coming in there. Like Victor's not going to stay there when Nocturne's on the map. He knows that Nocturne's almost level 6. Okay, so I think that was definitely an overreach from both supports. Each side cancels this out, and I don't think either one of them are going to be touching the Drake either.
Yeah, it's a lot of flashes burned. You could say it was a flash mob in the mid lane.
I'm trying not to laugh, but I did crack a smile right there.
You know what? The dad jokes, it's okay. You could roll your eyes as well, even if no one can see it. As 8 minutes into this game, it is a almost negligibly small gold lead for Frank Esports. The first blood really making the difference, and it was a solo kill for YSK. I mean, he loves getting those. He's already gotten himself off to a decent start, although the gold deficit coming in from the farm differential as he leads that mini wave in. Rest has just been able to push him out. The inherent advantages Renekton has.
I would say this is a massive power spike for Frank Esports here. They have a lot of their dive tools online, and if you look at the backline for Shun and Mission, neither of these have their flashes, so very easy for Frank to just snipe off a kill and then move on to other targets. I don't think CFO really want to contest this all that hard.
They are putting a show in, though. YSKM is moving forward. Pretender does have the Cyclone. They would have CC for days right now, but it's going to be started by a Gemini. Bringing in the Paranoia into the backline. They go, and everybody leaves their backside behind, and Pretender is going low in this one, but he is able to flash away from this now. YSKM being chased down. Rest calls the Meek and comes up with the second kill traded for 2 by CFO.
And Gemini somehow finds the finds the Smite War in that trade too. He is able to get away with the Herald. I felt like that fight was very much in favor of Frank Esports, but Gemini had too good of a start there. That was just amazing stuff from him. Once again, what Frank wants to do is they want to snipe off one of these backline targets, but what Gemini does is he actually goes in preemptively to make sure that he gets a ton of damage off. He also gets another Gravitum stun right on top of a Chaos Storm. So even though they kill Mission, it doesn't really matter because Mission got all of his damage off. That was, I gotta say, CFO just outplayed.
They did.
That's not much to talk about afterwards. I feel like that was a situation where Frank definitely had the advantage, but CFO with the experience.
One of the downsides of going for full dive is into a Victor. Victor, even if he can't see who's coming for you, all you got to do is throw all your stuff on top of yourself.
Yep.
And you know
you got that ER down, your job is through.
Yeah, exactly. So like that is one of the weaknesses here. I think you'd much rather be diving on top of Shun. You'd much rather be going for Gemini or even Rest, even though he's going to probably turn into a big stat stick later in this game. Pretender is completely caught right now, and he dashes, but not long enough, and the gravity field keeps him locked up for long enough for the collapse to come through. Koala actually getting him on the final hit. That was a bit of an odd misplay, a bit of an odd mispositioning from Pretender.
Yeah, there was no paranoia on Nocturne, so they were very confident in the 3v1 situation. It just seemed like Pretender was caught off in one of those situations where he was trying to reset the wave, and CFO now to a very strong position. I do think that they might be looking forward to getting that, as we see Rest going for the all-in now.
It's a level advantage. Hook shot, the chase down, tack sweep, Rest getting turned around, slices and dices. As the Nocturne is coming, Holo has paranoia, but with the dominance, they're not going to be able to take him down. So there's always the solo kill potential on both sides of this matchup, especially when YSKM and Rest are involved.
Yeah, either side playing very close to the wire here, and we do have Gemini now looking for a backwards drop onto this ward.
It's the first charge of the Cyclone down on the carries, but the rest of the team isn't quite there in time. He tried to get the deletion, however, Eminem is dishing some serious damage to him, and YSKM is coming to cut him off, and this is going to be good off the hook shot and that precision protocol and powered auto. They take down Gemini, who just stayed a little too long and pushed too far ahead of his team.
Yeah, I don't think he actually saw the TP here. Now this is kind of a weird trade. I'm not sure it's all that favorable for YSKM. He does get the kill there, but meanwhile on the top side, Russ is very happy to chow down. I think this is going to be 2 plates for him.
I think so. Not to mention some minions after the fact, too. Like, Renekton just shreds these things. And okay, he doesn't get the plate off that, but he will soon enough. And the CS league continues to grow. I love that YSKM's trying to make the plays for his team, and right now he's going to try to do something with it. As he throws down the ultimatum, gets a lot of damage. No dominance, remember. Even with that rage building, YSKM knows he can get this. Flashing forward, follows through, waiting for that tax, waiting for the hook shot. He will be able to get it without either and get out, so that was definitely worth it.
Oh, the Plate of Greed killed the Renekton right there. You know, Rest, he's kind of smiling here. He knew he wanted that 160 gold, but this ends up being a genius play from YSKM. The TP gets him a kill in the bottom side. He gets another kill on the top. Now already, I think he's back in the gold lead for sure after that play. Has his mythic, but on the flip side, CFO are going to start opening up with the Aphelios and moving into the Drake at the same time. So this is a very interesting situation. We have Frank Esports, I think, decidedly with the side lane advantage right now. But on the other hand, CFO can move their bottom lane to where they want earlier and try to shut down Camille. So it's going to be a lane allocation war where Frank wants to keep it standard and CFO want to put that Aphelios on top of Camille.
The Gale Force Complete first does really help out. Shun looking pretty decent this game in a healthy CS lead over Eminem, but YSKM has already shown that he can get some outplays, so that Camille's going to become an issue. And Rest Star is going to be fading just a little bit. The more and more this game goes, he does have Gore Drinker now, so he should still be able to hang pretty tough up against YSKM for a time. But you have to think, the 4-1 starts to get a little scary for CFO on that 3-1 Camille.
Yeah, and they have a lot of help with this 4-1. They have the Nocturne with the Stride Breaker already being built, so that's another slow to throw on top of Camille. This Silent's going to be, I think it's going to be impossible to save. Like, if Mission walks into Camille, he's probably just instantly dead. So, Frank Esports do have a lot of ways to kind of stretch out the map and avoid playing into a 2v2, but they do have to remember that the late game still revolves around 5v5s, and you still have to go through the Victor. You still have to go through the Aphelios late game. And if I'm Frank Esports, I would much rather not play a 35-minute game than try to constantly split push. I think the onus is still on Frank to make this a bit of a fast break.
Yeah, I think you're right. They are going to try and set up for these plays. Look at Holo around the side. Gemini and Mission joined by Koala and Shun. Everybody's coming to the party, though, and you can see the ping starting to come up. Rest doesn't have TP, and he is way off the other side of the map. Pretender going forward. Here's the paranoia. They move the catch in. That's Stridebreaker trying to keep him locked up. But Holo, his job is done. He's forced to flash away. The rest of CFO managed to rally here, but the Hextech ultimate comes down. Pretender is able to move in. He's holding on to that ultimate again. Himself the Chaos Storm coming through, and now they find the damage and double kill for Eminem. Looking for more. They do manage to lose the Silver, but it doesn't matter. The triple kill. That's going to be enough for the Quadra. No, it's YSGM with the steal. They lose Pretender, but they get everything else.
Beautiful play. This is what we wanted to see out of FAK Esports composition. The immense amount of chase down potential they can get, and also the fact that they can just turn off the lights, cancel the TPs, make it very hard for CFO to know where they're going in the dark right there. They're able to cast them out in that corridor, the ricochet onto everyone in close quarters. So even though the start of the fight looks pretty dicey for the side of FAK Esports, because it's a 5v4, they're able to play this really recklessly. They're able to chase down a lot of times just going with the flashes here. They have that 5v4 situation. You know, even though Shun comes in, it looks kind of bad at the start. Eminem in this choke is just shredding everyone.
Yeah, I really like what Frank did to approach that, is they knew that in the small choke point, they were gonna have to deal with missions E and R. Yeah. So what they do is they send a Holo in to just completely bait it out. He lasts for about 4 or 5 seconds and then flashes, and then they counter collapse around the side. Pretender steals away a Chaos Storm of his own. They set things up. Eminem gets a triple, and now Pretender is going to be coming in once again. Now looking for the collapse. Shun, Koala, Gemini could be caught out. They do manage to find Pretender here. The Chain Lash coming down to keep him locked up for just a time as he steals the Braum ulti. And the teleport is forced out of mission here to try and even these odds. All of a sudden, Rez side lane is turning into a liability because he can't TP to the team.
Yeah, and that was actually so well timed by FAK Esports. They came in when the Glacial Fissure was off and the Moonlight Vigil was off.
Going in,
now
paranoia.
They have another chance at Shun.
Yeah, they do. They look for that. Aphelios not going to find him just yet. Here we go. They will be able to get this at the end of the day, but Koala doesn't quite go down. Holo a little bit low already for the Chaos Storm on the backside. That's going to be enough on the second wind effort. Rest is arriving way too late to this party. Or is he? Pretender locked up by Koala, and Gemini will finally fall down as Rest has got that dominance on. We've got ourselves a good old 3v3, but nobody wants to keep this fight going.
Yeah, it's going to be a 2-for-2 in the end right here, and this time Shun does manage to get all the way into the battlefield. This time CFO actually do have their ultimates there. Glacial Fissure played a big role in just cutting off the backline. So FAK Esports, I would say this is kind of a win for CFO. They managed to stabilize the situation to get the kills across the board right here. Let's watch it again. Pretender, though, does a great job at finding Shun throughout all of this. Walks around the gravity field, around the Glacial Fissure to find the correct angle onto the abduct. Kill the 80 carry right off the bat. You know, that could have gone a lot worse for FAK Esports for sure, but because Pretender was able to walk around those slow fields, he's able to get Shun and equalize the fight out.
I think the target selection was a little bit sus in the second of it because the really focus came down onto Koala, and his Unbreakable absorbed so much of the damage. I think if they don't select the Braum, that changes things a little bit. Herald does get popped in the mid, though, and the Dragon is being focused down by CFO. They may very well get it, but I think they're going to be losing out on towers. That mid lane's going down, and look at YSGM completely uncontested up top. Teleport already burned. The Renekton's nowhere in sight. The timing window for Frank is huge.
Yeah, they could still go into the top side, and you could see Frank is still dealing, still able to head there, and I don't think CFO can follow. They don't have vision here. They could be chased down. Wukong's also on the map, so it's going to be a, how many towers is that? It's like a 3
like
for
almost,
1
I mean, it's like 2 towers, not to mention they also get an extra Shelly charge just barely as Gemini couldn't get a smite down in time, and that's pretty big right now. Frank, they grab a lot of gold for themselves as we're about to tick into 20 minutes.
A huge amount of gold being transferred over here, and I don't think CFO can chase. This is not their side of the map. They don't have vision established here. They're just going to have to take the L. I think that was close to 4 towers being taken down in just one fell swoop from Frank.
Yeah, that was big. Yeah, they get the one in the mid. They get another charge down on the second tower. YSGM is able to lead the charge up top, and he even picks himself up the Ravenous off the back of it. So his split push is going to be huge. Critically looking where the kills are on this FAK Esports side, it isn't everybody you'd want them to be on.
Yeah, I think it's a really good spread this time around. Eminem does a lot of damage here, and the side lanes are already winning. So, you know, they don't. Of course, if they get kills, it's good. But when you're already in a winning situation, you can give some love towards the AD carry right here. And for CFO, I still think they're such a long way off. You know, look at Shun. As we expected, he does have to build into the Bloodthirster, not the highest damage dealing item. So it does mean that he's most likely going to be looking at third and fourth items to really get to that power spike here. I will say the one thing for CFO that they do have going for them is the fact that they do have that 2 dragon stack. So what this means is that they can sit back and give Frank a couple more drakes. It's going to be clouds from now here on out, and clouds honestly don't matter all that much. Like, you're not outrunning Frank anyway, so giving him a couple clouds, not the biggest thing in the world. So I think CFO, they can just sit back and hope to hug their towers and just give over map objectives.
Yeah, this could slow down for a little bit for the time being, and while they're going to be waiting for Shun to ramp up in damage as he is on this build to try to be more sustained, Gemini and Rest are probably going to have to pick up some of that DPS slack. You can see the Chempunk Chainsword completed for the Renekton. Rest is going to have a fair bit to do for a while, but playing up to the big bruiser status, trying to keep him denied. I wouldn't be surprised if Holo goes like full spec into tank here, as his job is kind of just paranoia into the fight and draw as much pressure as possible.
Yeah, I think what he's going for is likely the GA here, and he knows that he needs a lot of HP to survive. So it's just going to allow him to constantly engage without giving over gold to the enemy carries. We also have seen Randuin just being a really popular build.
I've even seen Azania's built over in NA when they want like just the extra stasis. It's like, it's ridiculous. Like, what is Doctor going to do with that? But no, he walks it out. It's still going to be a tower though, down bottom. I mean, YSCam is just getting so much gold off this. Unlike last game, the Camille is very much online.
Yeah, he has the way with the split push this time. Even though he's still down CS, I think he could take down the Renekton 1v1 without too many problems here. CFO are putting themselves in a really weird spot. Renekton coming in
the
though.
back line. They bring in the Nocturne. Gemini locked up by carries for just a second as he gets out of there, and I don't think anybody from CFO was ready for this one. Mission tries to drop his full combo, and they do get a lot of damage. Holo trying to get out of there. Rest manages to slice and dice him down. It's Gemini and Koala just hanging out for dear life, but they are going to fall here. M&M just keeping him zoned, and they get themselves the full wipe exchange for just 2. That will be the Baron.
Yeah, and they get almost all the flashes on the back line, so Frankie Sports can run that once more. Massive fight coming in from them. I was really questioning why CFO were walking forward like that. Putting themselves in the middle of no man's land was a very suspect, and you saw YSChem with a beautiful flank onto the top side right there. What we saw was Karis able to get the Death Charge across multiple targets, Pretender able to just unleash extra burst damage across the backline. I believe he took the Chaos Storm. And then YSCam also closing out the flank. So we'll watch this again. Very suspect from CFO. I don't think you want to be out in the open like this. Mission even gets himself in range for Death Charge, flashes backwards, and brings it on top of his AD carry as well. Definitely a bit of an oopsies right here. You see both of the carries going down very early on into the fight. And Gemini, try as he might, he does take down the jungler, which he can't stop a Baron take, but Eminem is so fed. He hasn't died at all this game.
And we're right
this is looking really rough to hold on.
CFO are actually going to try to force the issue on this dragon, but they immediately get cold feet, noticing that the rest of Frank are on the way. YSCam on the flank as well. The fights have already gone their way so many times. Gravity Field laid down. Here we go into the Paranoia. They're actually going to have Pretender with a Dominus as he just keeps them all locked up for days, and there is absolutely no shot for CFO. They get melted, deleted, denied, destroyed. Doesn't matter what you say. There's going to be a base to be paid for right now. CFO lose massively.
Yeah, just absolutely obliterated on top of that. Drake, nowhere to go. They run into that position, and that was a Drake I don't think they needed to contest for. I'm not sure why CFO thought that it was paramount to go for a Cloud Drake like that. They put themselves in a terrible position, and once again, if Death Charge is able to be used to start the fight out, CFO just gonna die to the ground control. Like, Should basically didn't even get his Moonlight Vigil off that fight. He just instantly popped.
Frankie Sports are just doing so well right now. They're finding so many angles. The Camille is so fed that she can deal with just about anyone. Has the GA completed as well, and they've been able to unlock the secret, it seems, and the timing CFO needed to hang on for. It's slipping away from them so fast. Everything is going right for Frank and Clement. We're on the cusp of seeing them do what they've not been able to accomplish all split long, and that's beat CFO.
The game isn't over just yet, but it certainly feels like it. At this point, Frankie Sports with the double GAs and Zhonya's in their front line, the best CFO can actually do is run away and reset the fight. That's likely their only option to stay alive. I don't see them closing out any of these fights. And if you look at the itemization from Shun, he is so far behind. He's 2.5 items versus 3.5.
He's never gotten to play in the team fights. They just keep jumping on his face. And yeah, the Bloodthirster, sure, you want to try and get the sustain, but he just doesn't do the damage. You've got a Sivir with 8 kills. It's got 3.5 items. The Camille can jump on you, lock you up for days, and I had to think that CFO might want to consider denying this away from YSKM in future games. Speaking of, he's just sitting in their base right now, and Rest can't really chase him off. It's going to open up another inhibitor tower. Frank Esports, they didn't opt to end before with the death timers being pretty low, but now they are pushing in for the win at 26.5 minutes.
Stripping open the base wide here. They're going to take the inhibitor. I don't think they're going to push too hard onto the double nexus. Probably just turn around for the bottom. Indeed, you already have Camille coming over here. They're just going to play this again, and I feel like you're going to see Camille kind of swap over positions in the mid lane, provide that potential flank coming in. Polo already setting up for that one. Just waiting on the flanks right here. And this is going to be a tough defend from CFO. Once again, Shun doesn't have his flash here, so they walk forward. Frank could decide to close things right here, right now.
All right, Rest is going to try to make the play out of the paranoia. They actually completely deny the Croc as he gets rocked into his own tower. Nowhere he can do anything.
Lots of damage, though.
Gemini is going to try to force the issue, though. It buys enough time for them to turn the reset on the fight. Pretender isolated from the squad. You can see Polo trying to get out of there. That's going to be CFO actually managing the fight turn. How did it go so wrong for Frank Esports?
Oh, I feel like the proactive fight from Gemini was perfect. He actually gets everyone on top of the Cyclone in a Chaos Storm. That was such a smart way to play things out. I feel like Frank, they chased, they engaged, but they forgot about their own backline. The backline was kind of obliterated. Eminem didn't even have time to flash. We'll watch this again, but pay attention to what Gemini was able to accomplish. And the spell shield, once it was down on Eminem, Gemini actually goes backwards into the fight rather than protecting his own backline. And the Moonlight Vigil tags them right there. He gets the kill, plus the Triumph, heals up so much HP throughout all of that. And they use their tower as a backline defense system to then run forward. Wow.
That was something else. CFO managed to get back into that, just barely. That, whew, yeah, Gemini's the hero of the hour right there. They got to do that a few more times, I think, though, Clement, if they want to win this game.
It's still very much in Frank Esports' favor, but that was a massive shutdown goal going over to the other way, and we can see the damage potential now on the AoE from CFO. If Frank Esports want to engage, they have to be very careful about actually grouping up at this point. And with that fight, they actually take both of the GAs down on the front line too. So this becomes a fight where CFO not only can win with, but they can actually snowball the fight from start to finish. There's not going to be that gap in those GA timers anymore to kind of slow down the pursuit.
Yeah, and with the Baron coming up, this should be the take from Frank. It's not going to be easy for CFO to try and get out of their own basic contest, but they've bought themselves some time critically. That gets them back into this game to try and contest it some minutes down the line. We're getting closer to that 30-minute mark, and Frank realized it's not done and dusted. It's not locked up. You need to be able to finish the job. YSKM, he gets interrupted by Gemini. Does find the damage to push back onto him, and it's just so much burst coming out, but he burns the flash to do it.
This is such an interesting way to build coming in from Gemini. He's actually going for the PF first, so just adding a little bit kill threat onto the backline. I do expect this still to be a GA. It's probably just a kind of a gap build here, but interesting to see that he does understand his role here, and the way that they've been winning team fights is actually creating that kill zone between himself, the Moonlight Vigil, and Chaos.
Right. So, Frank Esports trying to ready up. We'll be able to take another dragon. They bought some time, or they have some time to work with, but with the inhibitors coming back up, it's gonna look a little better for CFO going through here. Anathema's chains completed by carries in this one.
Ooh, interesting here. I'm wondering who that's best put onto. I do think
I almost feel like Gemini at this point. You gotta get him out of the fight. Like, he's making all the difference.
Like Victor's probably the better target.
Yeah, I suppose, but yeah, once he drops the combo, I'm not as worried. But we'll see what happens here. That tower looking pretty tasty. Let's see if they can get this one.
Ooh, all three inhibitors open at this point. CFO doesn't look like they can fight for either one here, so they're going to be pushed all the way back to their Nexus.
All right, one inhibitor falls. The next one's going to get taken by YSKM. They will have to try and defend their base the best they can, but losing out on damage to the Baron-empowered minions, all three inhibitors, it just means it's going to be a turtle situation. The holdout, you don't want to go for the dive, though, if you're Frank, until you can get someone to lead it down. It's just become a poke war. Paranoia is on. They're not going to pull the trigger. They're just taking towers instead. When they turn the lights out, they just go ahead and rob CFO blind, but here's going to be the last-ditch effort. Gemini goes forward, does not get popped as he moved back on the clone, but the Nexus is going to fall into chaos, and Frank Esports finally take down CTBC Flying Oyster.
Love the way that they played the final fight right there. They just instantly walked the minions into base. They had all three minion waves lined up at the same time. YSKM gets the mid inhibitor, also threatening the bottom side here. And I have to say, in this game, I felt like the problem was the Victor. Victor Vic just comes online way too late. It doesn't provide any sort of impact compared to the Silas and Distance crowd control. And also because of the lack of impact in the mid lane, you see the Bill have to go for the Bloodthirster on the Aphelios as well. So the entire damage profile of CFO was shifted way too far into the back, and they still could not avoid being wiped a couple times into the mid game. I will say they actually held on quite well in the early, but the two times that they did overstep were way too costly.
I agree. I think there were some miracles to try and get back into that one. Gemini deserves an honorable mention. And there were ways to try and stymie the dive, but it just wasn't enough. And really intelligent play. I think the Nocturne usage by Holo was everything I wanted to see in this game. And barring a couple of mistakes and not respecting some of the damage dealers in those team fights, I really think Frank Esports stepped it up here, and I was wondering when they would find a win, when they would finally be able to take down Flying Oyster. Well, that answer was clearly in game number 2, and all of a sudden, Clement, we got ourselves a series.
Yeah, and this is the first time that Frank Esports has actually taken a game off of CFO. First time in 5 tries here.
Woof.
Yeah,
they did it, though.
To look at this draft once more, what I expected out of CFO in 12.14 is actually for them to go for more lane dominant strategies and try to play low to the ground. This is a patch where we see a lot more early action, and I'm a little bit surprised that this is the draft that they went for the Aphelios and the Victor, the super late game kind of combos that they have gone for. Remember, CFO has been able to just check Frank Esports in the laning phase. Even through this game, I felt like they did fine. So what happens when they actually pick counter picks, when they actually go for early game strategies? I feel like Frank Esports, I feel like CFO have not really tapped into their potential as the best laning team in the PCS. I think they're almost kind of losing by default to Frank's more aggressive strategies.
Yeah, I agree. I think you could call it untapped potential, even that they tend to play a little more late-game champions and still roll games. Rest, of course, being a bit of an exception, but did get outplayed by YSKM. I'd like to see the rest of the lanes go for it. Maybe this is the time for CFO to roll out something like the Lucian Nami. Get Shun off to a flying start and shut down Eminem before he gets to a big kill threat. Lucian has been banned a little bit, but if they can bait it open, maybe that's the opportunity. I would love to see Mission as well on something like a Syndra. Or even like a LeBlanc. I mean, the Orianna could still do a little bit early, but I don't know. I think this is a team that is kind of setting their ways in a few plays, and this was a big one, speaking of plays, for Holo going in baits out the full combo and just, all right, my job here is done. You guys finish it.
They have the 5v4. They're coming in from 3 different angles at the same time, and because Sivir can arrive on the battlefield a lot sooner than anyone else, they find the clean 5v4. This was one of 3 massive team fights that that FAK Esports managed to get to pad themselves a huge amount of gold and open up the base. So if you're playing against this type of team composition, you really have to just hang back and wait on the 35 minutes. I think this was a really weird sequence where we saw CFO try to contest Cloud Drakes. It wasn't even a Cloud solo, it was just a 3rd Cloud Drake. And I don't think they needed to do this. They put themselves in terrible positioning. The paranoia stopped the ability for them to actually see the teleports coming in. And that just gave YSKM so many angles to find the backline. We also had the very unfortunate flash on top of Aphelios to start things off coming in from Mission. These team fights were honestly quite easy from FAK Esports. So now the ball is in CFO's court. How do you answer this sort of triple dive composition? What do you do when suddenly the script is flipped and you now have Eminem willing to play the Sivir first?
I think you nailed it with playing earlier game champions, right? Like if you just don't let the dive comp get rolling and then have to ride out into the late game, if you just fight them in the early, fight them in the mid, they have such strong laning advantages. And Gemini has been playing incredibly well as an aggressive jungler and saved a lot of the plays that would have gone south and even made a couple of the losses sting a little bit less. But this is how the game went. They were starting to build up a little bit of a gold lead, but the turnabout was huge there for FAK Esports off some miraculous fights. And this is a team that is clearly leveled up, and we saw the potential come to fruition this time around.
I think this was one of the best examples where FAK Esports actually played out their compositions in a correct fashion. A lot of times we compliment FAK Esports for being strong in their own lanes, but not having good focus in the mid to late game. This is definitely a showcase of their growth, especially with the time to prep during the postseason. We were kind of worried that they didn't have a good Sivir play, but they proved us wrong here with this all-in, very hyper-focused backline dive comp. And if you look at this gold graph, it still shows the same thing. CFO are still masters of the early game. Even with this type of a comp, they can hold out in the early game. I think for them, it's just about, playing towards this bot lane, getting a winning lane. In the meantime, though, YSKM, massive flanks, great angles of engages. He never let Shun play his game.
No, he didn't. And this guy is just ridiculous. The Camille has been prioritized so heavily, and you can see why. Sure, he's got high kill participation. He earns a lot of those himself. It all opened up with a solo kill, and man, like, Rest is good, but this youngster is definitely getting the better of him. This game, finally, they managed to topple CFO, and he was a big part of it. I think YSKM is going to remain a massive threat.
Yeah, the start off just getting the level 5 kill right before the Dominus comes online set him off to a great start here. And I really want to see more out of this one. I want to see some of these bans unlocked. Look at the Jaxes, the Gwens, all the bans there. YSKM is going to be a beast, and we have so much of postseason to look forward to.
Yes, we do. Well, we certainly have a lot more to this series. We'll be back with Game 3 right after the break.